All right, so it is Wednesday, November 27th, the day before Thanksgiving. It is 11:13 a.m. here in the pumpkinless city of Albuquerque. As I mentioned in a different series, or perhaps it's not a series, perhaps it's a singularity. But in any case, whatever it is, as I mentioned, I spent most of yesterday perusing Albuquerque in search of desperately seeking pumpkin. And then this morning, Lori on the phone, desperately sought pumpkin as well. She's better with that kind of thing, telephone conversations and stuff. And I suppose I'm better, driving around and doing physical things in the world. So the confirmation is that not only did I fail to find a pumpkin in my desperate search for pumpkins in Albuquerque yesterday, but Lori failed as well in her phone search for pumpkins, and I guess the upside is, we were able to explore a little bit about the history of pumpkins in relationship to both the Americas in general and Thanksgiving in specific, and the celebration feast, of Thanksgiving that we generally associate with pumpkins and turkeys. But right now we're returning to this series in the grip of ThermostatAnon, and you recall that that title is borrowed from the original title presented here, all acronymically, or at least mostly acronymically. I can see the word presents, and that's not an acronym as far as I know. But the rest, it seems to be in one way or another acronymic. And like I said, the original title was In Search of Q-MAGAnon, from which In Search of ThermostatAnon derives its name. And as everyone who's been following the series realizes, in search of, not in search of, in the grip of, did I say in search of Q-MAGAnon? In the grip of Q-MAGAnon. And as everyone knows, in the grip of ThermostatAnon is a justification of what ThermostatAnon, YouTube's censorship AI program, regarded as an endorsement of conspiracy theories that were harmful and capable of producing a violent consequence. And my viewers who've been following this series will also realize that we have both been denying this and basically demonstrating that in fact that this particular narrative told in comic form is which occurs in various universes, the multiverse that we are nominalizing, at least tentatively nominalizing as the meta-multi sci-fi comiverse, and which includes oddly includes our universe as well as various comic universes and some cinematic universes as well, including the George Lucasverse, and from the comics, the Yodaverse, the DCverse, the Marveliverse, and probably some others that are slipping my mind at this particular moment. And we can name them, as they come up. Today we'll be looking at the desperately seeking verse, I guess we could call it, or the Sousaverse, perhaps. We'll see. And I suppose that relates in a certain way to our desperately seeking pumpkins over the last couple of days. So we'll see how all that plays out. And in the process of all of this and all of this justification, you will also be aware, if you're following the series, that we've introduced a lot of definition and information, regarding various forms of figurative language, specifically and pointedly figurative language that rotates or revolves around, this basic idea of satire and the specific idea of political satire, but that includes, sardonicism, feigned ignorance in narratology, unreliable narration, irony, sarcasm, and we've explored, various forms of irony, and in fact, discovered some that we didn't realize existed before, including both local irony and stochastic irony. This sort of improbable, accidental irony, or an irony that at least belongs to this semiotic of indeterminacy, in the same way that stochastic terrorism belongs to a terrorism of indeterminacy, which is what makes it difficult to prosecute. We especially focused on that in relationship to our narration concerning the events of January 6th, 2021, as they related to this both actual, human being who exists in our universe, Rudy G, and his various avatars that exist in other universes, particularly the Yodaverse, but other universes as well. And however, comic a character he may seem to be, I assure my viewers and listeners that he actually does exist in our universe, and he actually does drip that greasy, grimy, gophery tar substance that we see him dripping in some of the images. So I think, that's enough, and probably, not necessary, because I'm sure that, most of my viewers are aware of all of the things that I've stated so far and are eager for me to jump to the Susannaverse. And here she is. So the title on this one announces Orion Pictures, and I believe Orion was the studio that put out the original Desperately Seeking Susan. Here's Madonna playing the part of Susan in this movie, and I believe she's definitely reading a newspaper, but I assume that she's reading something from the personals in this newspaper. Perhaps reading. Perhaps reading the personal that states that someone is desperately seeking her, or perhaps not. Perhaps reading something else. So Orion Pictures, in conjunction with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and in case there's anybody out there who doesn't know the acronym for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, that would be the FBI, and the FBI and special assistance from the Justice League. I don't believe the Justice League really has an acronym. I guess if it did, it would be either JL or TJL, but I don't think I've ever seen it presented that way. So in some ways, it falls outside of our largely acronymic universe. Of course, Q-MAGAnon is largely, well, I guess the middle is an acronym, and then Anon is just, it can mean two things, right? Anon can mean like immediately, like, let's go, or immediately, basically, like stat, or or it can mean anonymous. It can probably mean other things as well. And if it's anonymous, it's an abbreviation, and if it's anon, it's just, you know, ordinary word. And the Q, you know, could be an abbreviation for something, or it could be something else. It's probably not, you know, an abbreviation for QFWFQ. Something else. I guess it could represent question, or the Q in the Star Trek-averse. Would that is it the Star Trek-averse or the who's responsible for the I want to say Rod something, or maybe it's Ron. It's not Rod Sterling. But in any case, whatever universe that Star Trek belongs to, I'm not certain that it's not a reference to that Q, but I don't believe that it is. And we know it in relationship to the MQ-MAGAn, you know, movement, obviously. And of course, Orion Pictures, in conjunction with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, that is the FBI, and special assistants from the Justice League, that doesn't have an acronym, present Desperately Seeking MQ-MAGAn because they are looking for individuals who participated in the violent and destructive events of January 6th. And here are some of their pictures. And Martian Manhunter is offering his assistance. Let's see if I can read what he says. Hello, do you require any assistance? That's exactly what he's asking, and offering his psychic abilities, right, in the service of the hunt for these individuals responsible for this violent act of terrorism and insurrection against our government and our democracy. And of course, Madonna here in the character of Susan is looking at this information. And I guess that's a form of time travel as well, because I believe this was a movie from the 1980s. It would surprise me if it was either later or before that, since Madonna is known for her role in assisting in the production of that zeitgeist that we refer to as the 80s. All right. I think that's all that we need to say about this image. I don't know if any of these folks in the background have any relevance. These folks out of focus in the background, I significantly doubt it. I don't think there's anything else I need to say about these images. They're hard to see, so I don't know if they're going to be much use to the FBI. And I think, you know, this insignia, you know, demonstrates that the FBI knows about these folks already anyway, so I think we can move on. That's obviously Amandul in the back, Amandul 2 in the background. All right, let's stop here. All right, everybody recognizes this guy, Marco Rubio. He's in the news again. We'll look him up. We'll look him up on a Google search. We've talked a little bit about Google today, and Google's project of, you know, Google in addition to Leon Mosquito and SpaceX and his SpaceX Martian team, and Jeff Bezos and his Amazon.com team, you know, their attempts to eliminate the long-standing existence of the national I don't know why I always have a hard time remembering all of the terms in this particular entity, but the National Labor Board, National Labor, let's look it up. National Labor Relations Board is what I'm looking for, relations. And that, of course, refers to the agency which oversees American workers' right to unionize and hold collective bargaining agreements in relationship with their employers. And of course, what we were just referring to is the fact that Google had a problem with that and wanted in their Operation Vivian, or was it Operation Vivian or something like that? But anyway, Operation Vivian was an attempt to intimidate, I guess is the best word, their workers into ceasing to negotiate in unions and dissuading them from establishing a union. And of course, Amazon, Jeff Bezos and Amazon have done the same thing. Starbucks coffee is another notorious one, and now Leon Mosquito and Amazon.com are suing the National Labor Relations Board, right, for their efforts to protect their workers' rights. Apparently, the protection of workers' rights is unconstitutional, according to Leon Mosquito and whoever is in charge of Amazon at this time, which I don't believe is Mr. Bezos, but whoever has replaced him as CEO. But things change hands. I don't know. So this is Mark Rubio, and I suppose the reason that he's here is because well, at this time, which was the time that, oh look, there's the image that we got in so much trouble for, and had the video removed for. So we're not allowed. We've been censored for showing this image, and we're not technically not allowed to show this image on YouTube because it promotes conspiracy theories. Of course, this is what we've been arguing, that it doesn't do. We also have been arguing that Tucker Carlson, who is being parodied and satirized here, actually does this, as well as Ted Cruz. We've talked about Ted Cruz, and we probably won't talk about him again because we've talked about him enough. Ted, the barbarian Cruz, right? And is it Marco Rubio or Mark Rubio? I want to say Marco Rubio because it sounds like Marco Polo, but it's probably just Mark Rubio. We'll have to look that up and see. But he's presented here, I assume, because in either late January or February of 2021, he made a statement condemning the events of the insurrection on January 6th, and then the day later, if not outright retracted that, sort of like renegotiated his role in relationship to his protection of the figure of the very famous Q-MAGAnon minion, Donald J. Trump, and then failed to support the prosecution of these individuals involved in the insurrection and the violence and the destruction and mayhem at the Capitol, as well as the organization failed to support the organization of committees devoted to investigating the matter, and the investigation of the matter is quite clearly here is the insignia that we're looking for, part of Martian Manhunter's intervention here. And then up here it says Keeler, and that's Breonna Keeler. GOP ignored their own warnings about Trump, and that Brianna Keilar is, I believe, because it says CNN here, she must have been an anchor for CNN. I know that she was an anchor for one of the major news media networks, and I'm assuming that CNN, is a reference to that. I'm sorry that I can't remember off the top of my head, which media corporate conglomerate, she was affiliated with, but I'm assuming that it was CNN. We can look that up too. GOP, that's not gross, opinionated product or, something, or gross organic product. That's, does anybody recall what the GOP, Donald Trump was very pleased with himself that he discovered, I guess, over the course of his presidency that Abraham Lincoln belonged to the Republican Party. Of course, that Republican Party was nothing like the Republican Party that's existed since the 1950s, but, never mind the transformations of ideology, over time, and we can always ignore, all of that. But have I mentioned yet what the answer to the acronymic question is? Of course, it's Grand Old Party, right? But I kind of like the idea of gross organic product. Ignored their own warnings about Trump, and then what Martian Manhunter has to say, picks up on that. Ms. Brianna Keilar. Although she quite clearly understands the meaning of the word sycophant, Ms. Keilar seems to have a rather limited comprehension of the nature of psychic abilities. And we'll explain that line a little bit. Here's the FBI in the background, and I guess they're not sure whether Martian Manhunter is on their side or not. And that tin that is so conveniently positioned over that particular area on Martian Manhunter's outfit isn't there, intentionally on our part. So just to let us off the hook on that, that's not an alternative to the Shazam reference that the alpha hetero salamander juice, produces elsewhere. If you're really keeping track of what we do. So okay, so this is what I remember, and then we'll look it up and see if I'm actually remembering it correctly, or if I'm not, and my memories are fuzzy on all this. So what I remember is that the reason that he's saying this is because Brianna Keilar referred to these individuals like Ted Cruz and Marco Polo Rubio as sycophants, and they certainly are sycophants. But I think she said that before they were sycophants, they had psychic abilities, meaning they already seemed to know that Trump was going to lose the election, and had already proposed that the rationale or the justification for the loss, not the justification, but the reason that for the loss was that it was in quotes, and I hope ThermostatAnon got that this is in quotes. I'm not saying this. This is this guy saying this, and this is Mark Rubio perhaps saying this, that the election was rigged, and as with Giuliani and his attack on the various voting machines, and as well as individuals, in keeping track, right, of at these polling sites, these two women who he, still hasn't paid for his slander, and now is complaining that his resources are tied up, his money is tied up, and he can't pay his bills. And the reason, of course, that it's tied up is because he keeps failing to follow the instructions of the court and pay the money that he was sued for, and that these women that he slandered, and we've talked about that in depth. I'm not going to get into it. Are still waiting for. So anyway, it's difficult to feel sorry for It's difficult to feel sorry for Rudy G for many, many reasons. Not just that one, but certainly that one included. So, Ms. Brianna Keeler, or Keller, or however you pronounce her name, I'm not certain I remember, said, something like, before they were sycophants, they had psychic abilities, and she's referring to that sort of premeditated cover up of and premeditated and of course Trump did the same thing in 2024, right? If we don't win, then then we're going to know that it was a rigged election. Of course, if we win, it wasn't a rigged election, right? So the same story. It turned out that he actually, barely scraped by with both, barely scraped by with the popular vote, and barely scraped by with the electoral vote. And in fact, he didn't even win a majority of the popular or electoral vote. I think maybe he did win a majority of the electoral vote, but he won a plurality, and he certainly won it by less of a margin than he lost it to Hillary. In other words, Hillary won by more of a margin the popular vote than Trump did, and poor Hillary Clinton, never did get to be president. So there certainly is no mandate. It's just about the farthest thing from a mandate one could imagine. But never mind, the truth never got in the way of the sycophants, nor in the way of the those possessed with psychic abilities, like these folks. So that's what I remember, and I think there was something else going on. Let me read it again. Although she quite clearly understands the meaning of the word sycophant, Ms. Keeler seems to have a rather limited comprehension of the nature of psychic abilities. Now, and I believe, and we'll probably never find this, but someone who's better at internet searching than myself can attempt to do so and see if it's true. I think also because, like she either said or was rumored to have said, and I'm not sure which one is the case, that another Brianna Scurry or something like that, who was an Olympic athlete, perhaps a figure skater or something else, I can't remember, but I believe that she said that she won because of her, in addition to her training and remarkable skills, her natural or native psychic abilities. And it was a strange thing to say because it seemed like such a catachresis. Now, that term, we've already discussed, and I believe in this series, and so I won't bother to define it, but go back and do the work and see if you can find it. I know we've talked about synecdoche and metonymy and simile, and probably spent too much time feigning ignorance and around not knowing the difference between metonymy and synecdoche, but that also is part of our strategy of exploring various ways of narrating and the and rhetorical strategies involved in narratology, right? And that's important because those deceptive strategies of narratology are related, right, to the deceptive strategies of feigned ignorance and stochastic terrorism that Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani and what's this guy's name again? Oh yeah, it's Ted Cruz and Ted the Barbarian Cruz and Marco Polo Rubio, participate in and produce. So let me see. Do we even need? Yeah, I think, I don't know. My viewers, if they're really interested, they can go and look up Brianna Keeler and see if my memory's correct or not, and exactly what the context of that was. Now, I think this one's more important because he's in the news today, and after all of that and the switcheroo. So let's look up Marco Polo Rubio. This is us. Remember the word that we were looking for here? We couldn't remember the fourth word, and it was relations. It's not bore, of course, it's bored. Oh, it is Marco. No wonder I want to say Marco Rubio, because it is Marco Rubio. I thought I was just getting it confused with Marco Polo. And that's okay. Let's start with January 6th, and then we can move on to the present. Might have to do a new search. Someone is claiming Marco Rubio is unquestionably qualified to serve in Trump's. Trump wants him to be the next Secretary of State, and that is, perhaps because of his switcheroo on the January 6th thing. Oh, this is unfortunately.
The men and women that we walk by every single day, that guard the doors and we say hello to, out there with riot gear, getting spit on and attacked. Today, not 10 weeks ago, just a few hours ago. And I think it's important to think about all those things on a night like tonight and everything that's happening. I wouldn't even be here today. I doubt very much where I would even have been interested in politics had it not been for my grandfather. He died when I was 14, but I grew up at his knee. He would sit on the porch, he would smoke 3 cigars a day, and he loved history. He was born in 1899 in rural Cuba. It was still governed by the United States. It was a protectorate. 3 years later, it gained its independence and became a republic. During my grandfather's first 60 years of life, he saw his country have an armed insurrection after a contested election, multiple presidents go into exile, 2 military coups, and the rise of a Marxist dictator. A tyranny that stands to this day. My entire life, I have lived with and next to people who came to America because their country was chaotic and their country was unsafe. What I saw today, what we have seen, looks more like those countries than the extraordinary nation that I am privileged to call home.
So that was the moment. I guess that's not bad, that we found that one. That was the moment before this moment. And this is the switcheroo here, Rubio's statement on impeachment. I guess we're going to have to read this one. Just minutes after the attack of January 6th began, I said it was not only unpatriotic, it was un-American. I do not need to be convinced that what happened on that day was the disgraceful work of a treasonous criminal mob. But seeing images of that attack stirred up anger in me, anger that our nation was being embarrassed in the eyes of our own citizens. It goes on and on. I don't want to really read all of this, but there's The lead House manager argued today that this trial isn't about Donald Trump, that it was about our country, and that those who refuse to vote to convict are pardoning the actions of a violent mob and failing to defend the honor of our capital and the people who work there. This is a ridiculous and insulting argument. Impeachment is not a way of sending a message or taking symbolic action. Impeachment exists for one principal reason: to remove from office an office holder guilty of wrongdoing. And of course, he was guilty of wrongdoing. We're referring to Donald J. Trump, because he was part of the actions. Now, anyone claiming otherwise has to be in extraordinary denial that that Donald Trump, either hosted, or allowed the January 6th Patriotic Hero Awards ceremony to be conducted on one of his, I believe, Florida, golf course properties, and these individuals, responsible for this violence and mayhem were actually awarded, not convicted, but celebrated. And he's promised, right? He's promised to pardon all of these individuals. Now, how can you pardon them and hold an opinion that this was a violent act and un-American, that it was more like something that would happen in one of these countries that Marco Rubio was disparaging? Well, you can't hold both of those things in your mind and believe that you're not guilty of hypocrisy unless you don't understand what the word hypocrisy means, right? And so the justification is an example of extraordinary hypocrisy, and that's what we're pointing out in the presentation of his place among these images. I voted to acquit former President Trump because I will not allow my anger over the criminal attack on January 6th, which, we have argued pretty extensively is the result of stochastic violence perpetrated by individuals such as Donald J. Trump and Rudy Giuliani. I think we've presented enough evidence that that's the case, not to have to argue it again. But it's over now. Let's just move on. And then, of course, now Marco Rubio is being asked to become part of Trump's cabinet. There's more. Let's see if we can find more. Marco, I won't even bother to look at all of this stuff, but well, maybe we'll look at this one. Marco Rubio contempt for attacking bipartisan committee investigations of the So on the one hand, we have this diatribe, right? And then on the other hand, we have a refusal to participate in the prosecution, that prosecution and investigation that Martian Manhunter is so eager to be involved in, and displaying a lot of motivation in terms of finding and bringing to justice the perpetrators that in one moment Marco Rubio railed against, and in the next maybe I should just even read some of this. Marco Rubio's recent interview on Face the Nation was a complete disaster, unable to answer basic questions about where he stands on issues surrounding the January 6th attack. Rubio denounced the bipartisan committee investigating the rioters who violently stormed the Capitol and attacked police officers in an attempt to overturn the 2020 election. So basically a complete turnaround from that video that we watched. Train wreck, it's referred to as. Look, I don't know what happened to Marco when this is someone else. When he ran in 2016, I was a Jeb supporter and went to Marco after Jeb because I looked and I go, Marco is talking about a strong America. He was kind of this representative of this next generation of potentially Republicans. I don't know what even that means. And he's gone all in now on this kind of big lie. And the big lie, of course, refers to this idea that there was some kind of voting conspiracy, and the Trump won the election, and the Electoral College, was part of this conspiracy, and the voting machines were part of this conspiracy. Dominion was part of this conspiracy, and the other one was kind of part of this conspiracy, and and that Trump. I mean, it's like you have to be able to have your cake and eat it both ways, right? Like, so Trump is both going to pardon all these people but like didn't have anything to do with supporting them. So I'm not sure how all that works out. But anyway, here's another example of the Marco Rubio stuff. You can do more research on that. Let's just go ahead and let's just see what's going on today. Just hit news. Marco Rubio is unquestionably qualified to serve in Trump's cabinet, says Democrat Adam Schiff. Is that ironic? Let's see if it's ironic. I think we're on mute.
Xfinity Internet customers, our best deals of the year are back. Switch to Xfinity Mobile and get your choice of a free 5G phone plus your next unlimited line free for a year. Get amazing savings and connect to Wi-Fi speeds up to a gig on the go with
This isn't intending to be an advertisement for any particular mobile service. I'm just waiting for the.
Let me ask you big pictures. Obviously, President-elect Trump has now said he wants to pick Pam Bondi to serve as his attorney general. He has swept the battleground states. He won the popular vote. Republicans have control of the House and of the Senate. Do you think that the president-elect should have his picks confirmed?
Well, I think the president has the right to nominate anyone who's qualified, who has good judgment and good character. It doesn't mean he's guaranteed Senate approval of whoever he nominates, and some of these nominees are deeply problematic. I'll be interested in the confirmation process. Will Pam Bondi continue to tell the big lie even under oath? Is she going to continue to say that the Justice Department should be prosecuting prosecutors who brought valid evidence before a grand jury found probable cause to believe Donald Trump committed crimes? That's not a basis to go after them. So she's going to have to answer tough questions. Tulsi Gabbard concerns me a great deal that someone who has echoed Kremlin talking points, someone who has appeared to make common cause with someone like Bashar al-Assad, who gasses his own people, someone who has no experience whatsoever, not even on the Intelligence Committee in the Congress, should be running those agencies. So they're going to have tough questions to answer.
Senator-elect Schiff, is there anyone on this list who at this very moment you think you could vote yes on? You could support?
Well, for example, I think Marco Rubio is enormously well qualified for the job for which he's been nominated. I still want to ask questions. I'm not going to completely prejudge even him, but he's unquestionably qualified, and there are others as well. But some are
Interesting, because everybody, including Adam Schiff, who was supposed to be one of our heroes in this moment, seems to have forgotten just how sycophantic and what would be the right expression? Approval seeking some of these individuals turned out to be, and just how hypocritical some of their changes of position and stance in relationship to this event actually were. So even the Democrats now, like Adam Schiff, seem to be demonstrating, significantly less heroism than, let's just say, than Martian Manhunter here in this image, and Martian Manhunter's persistence, and consistency of character. I don't think we even need to talk about that image. All right, so here's the proposed. See, this is what strikes me as being problematic about Adam Schiff's statement regarding Marco Rubio, right? So when the hero was chosen, and we've talked about the hero, and I think this is actually Groot. This is not I Am Peach. This is Groot. And Groot has a funny sense of humor. So what he's doing here, he's wearing an I Am Peach mask. I don't know if you can see that, but that's Groot. That's the young Groot, and he's a member of one of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's dancing here to his pop music. He likes American 70s pop music, and particularly R&B, but but other kinds of pop music as well. And here he's got an I Am Peach mask on, and we have the translator here. He's saying I am Groot because that's what he says. And in Groot, we have the translator here, and he's translating audio from Groot to Peach, right? And I believe, if I remember correctly, that the language of Peach, just like the language of Groot, is basically it sounds to us, if we don't understand the language, as a repetition of the same phrase. Groot's language is, it consists of I am Groot, and I Am Peach's language consists of I am Peach. So the translation is I am Groot, and Groot is saying I am Peach, right? I am Peach. And then we have some stuff going on at the top. Instructions for the dancers. And I'm not sure why that is those words are positioned where they are, because they should, as we discussed before, they should form the Zoroic Z from the Zoroiverse. And here they just seem to, maybe there's a different reason, but they just seem to form this strange backwards C, right? If you go over here, instructions, presumably up here is the word for, and then here, the acronym, does anybody remember what the acronym THE means? If you don't, it means time has eyes. It's a military expression that the general and Martian Manhunter use to talk about certain kind of surveillance, but also where those eyes are directed. And maybe the C means something that I'm overlooking, but it's not the Zoroic Z. The Zoroic Z would be it would begin here, right? Instructions, and then for would be over here, and then the dancers would, then the would be over here. Instructions for the, and then the dancers would be over here. And I don't know, maybe that was just an error on our part, overlooking the formulation of the Zoroic Z, or maybe it's not a reference to the this Zoroiverse, but some backwards C-averse, and I fail to remember what actually constitutes the backwards C-averse, and so I really have nothing to say about it. But Groot is celebrating with the mask and playing the part of I Am Peach. And what I was saying about Adam Schiff's embrace of Marco Rubio, or Marco Polo Rubio, if you prefer, is that he seems to have forgotten that Marco Rubio was one of those individuals who failed, to embrace the heroic efforts of I Am Peach, and voted against the impeachment process, with basically just with a lot of empty rhetoric as justification. So unlike Adam Schiff, I guess, who seems to me is being a little bit light in the hero department here, we haven't changed our minds at all about Marco Polo Rubio. And I'm sure that if you asked Groot, he would say about Marco Rubio, and I'll go ahead and say it. I guess ThermostatAnon censor me if it likes. It's pretty damning, and it's a little vulgar, but I imagine that what Groot would say is, I am Groot.